Hello everyone, WYN here again for tutorial video number 4 in a series of how to create an exploiting script for Roblox. In today's video, we'll go through adding drop-down lists to the GUI that we made in the last video, so you can select specific rebirths or select specific worlds that you wish to teleport to. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So starting back where we left off with our code from the last video, as you can see here, I'm going to go down to a UI element that we haven't used yet called the dropdown. So I can see it right here. I'm just going to copy the dropdown function, which right now it's commented out. And we'll go ahead and start with it on the teleport. I think that'll be fairly easy. So I'm just going to paste it right above our teleport button. And I'm going to remove the comments. Hotkey for that in Visual Studio Code is hold down the Control key, the Shift key, and the / key. I'm sorry, that's Control and /. No commented out. Otherwise, you could just remove the double dashes on each line manually, and that will work just as well. Okay, so we want a drop down that'll allow users to select which world they wish to teleport to. First thing, we need this on the same window that we created for the teleport. So I'm going to change this B to a D. And right now it should pop up right on top of the teleport button if we list this. So now looking at the command, this first option here, this label, is what we want to call this drop down. So I'm just going to put it world. And then the next is a table you passed into the drop-down of the options to select. So in the example, it's just the letters A, B, C. We want to replace these with the worlds that are available. So let's jump back over to the game and find the worlds. I know one of them's desert, so let me go ahead and just copy desert, and we'll just throw that in as the first option. But we want to find the other worlds. So let's go back into the game. And one way is we could come over here and look at the worlds and try to assume that the way that they're listed above the portals is right. But a better way is to use Dex Explorer. Once again, if you're using Synops, that's in their script hub right here, Dark Dex. If you're using a different exploit, I'm sure you can find a variant of it, or once again, search on v3rm for Dex and you can find a load string for it. So now that I have this open, I'm going to expand the workspace folder. The workspace, which I believe I mentioned in another video, is essentially all the parts that are in the world that you see in the game. So I want to come and see if I see anything for worlds, which we did this in an earlier video, so I know there's a folder for worlds. I'm going to expand that, and each of these folders is a list of the worlds. So we have desert, winter, lava, toxic, ocean, and so on. So I could just copy these down. There's a number of ways that we could do this. To keep it simple, I'm just going to do maybe the first 3 or 4 just for demonstration purposes. So desert, winter, lava, and toxic. So I'll go back to the code. I'll make the second option winter. Next one, lava. I'm going to put a comma in quotes and do toxic for the third option. So now we have 3 options: desert, winter, lava, toxic. Now, when a user selects an option for the dropdown, this function here is called. So right now, this function passes the value of what's selected. And in the demo here, they have it listed as mob. I'm just going to rename that to value. You can leave it as mob, but renaming it to value makes sense because it's the value that's selected. And if we were to do print just like this, it'll print out which option they selected. But really what we want to do is we want to teleport to whichever version they selected here. So to do that, I want to store what they've selected and use it in our teleport button so it knows which location to teleport them to. Before I do that, I'm going to change the label of the button from teleport desert to teleport selected. So we know that whatever they select, then they click the button and it teleports them. And as you recall, we've already created a function that we just passed to it the world, and it will teleport to that world. And so in the demo or in our last video, we did specifically desert, but this time I want to pass the value that's selected from here into this function. So the easiest way to do that is to go ahead and create a variable that we're going to use to store the value. So just above the dropdown, I'm going to create a local variable, and I'm going to call this selected world. Now I'm going to copy this because down here within the function, when it gets called, I want to set the variable to the value selected. So now that I've done this, this variable, since it's used above the scope of the dropdown, can now also be accessed in the function that gets called from the button. So this variable now becomes somewhat of a global variable in the script to where we can access it and reference it into another function. So now I'm just going to copy the variable. I'm going to remove desert and just put the name of the variable. Now notice I didn't have to put it in quotes here, and that's because the variable is going to hold a string value from the selection already. In variables, you don't need to reference them with quotes. Now, I probably want to do one additional check just to make sure that a value is selected, so this doesn't try to call an empty value on teleport. So I'm going to do a condition statement, which we discussed, I believe, in the first video. I'm just going to say if selected world, then we'll go ahead and call the function. So if selected world, then, and I'm going to put in block here. So right now, selected world, if there is nothing selected, if the user hasn't made a selection in the dropdown, the selected world is going to be empty or nil. So it's not going to have a value. And so if it's nil, this statement is going to evaluate as false because selected world essentially doesn't exist, doesn't have a value. And so if it doesn't exist, then I don't want to teleport because we haven't made a selection. But if it does, if there is a value there, then we teleport. All right, so I just want to look at the function that we created for teleport to world. Again, once again, we pass the world to it. It looks up the world in the workspace folder and it teleports to the teleport target. All right, I think that's going to work fine. Let's go ahead and just copy this code, all this code, and I'm going to paste it in to the game. I'm going to paste it here, execute, and then we have our GUI pop up. I'm going to go down to teleport. And let's see, if I click the drop down, we have our selections. So let's try desert and hit teleport selected. It worked. Let's try another one, winter. Worked. Lava. All right. And then toxic. Perfect. All right. So now we've created a drop down to where you can select the world in which you want to teleport. Now, we could have also handled this by just including a bunch of different buttons for each world, but this is a much cleaner approach. Very easy to decide which world do you want to teleport to and select it. Okay, now that we have that completed, let's go back to the spawn. And I think what we want to do next is create a drop down for the types of rebirths. So to do that, first I want to go back to the rebirth area, and I'm going to open up my remote spy, once again the simple spy, because I just want to make sure the value for the rebirths match up with what we're seeing on the screen. And so if I were to buy this 360,000 rebirth, go ahead and click it. Let's look at the remote here, buy rebirths. The value that was sent looks like it's 10,000. All right, let me go back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and let's go ahead and turn our auto clicker on so we can buy some more rebirths and see what it looks like. Oh, let me just pause that. We'll exclude the click events so it doesn't fill our screen. All right. Back here. Let's buy the first one and see what it comes up as. Comes up as 1. Okay, let's buy the second one. Second one comes up as 10. The third one comes up as 100. And this should be 1,000. And this should be 10,000. Okay. All right. I think we have what we need. So basically they go in increments. It looks like it's starts at 1, then 10, so then 100. So it's basically multiplying by 100 each time it goes up. All right, so let's go back to our code, and we're going to copy this drop down that we created earlier, and we're going to paste it right above the auto rebirth toggle. And once again, this is in a different window. It's B, not D, so I'm going to change it to B. And I'm going to title this, instead of world, rebirth amount. And we'll do 1, 10, 100, 1000. And we can select more. Obviously, that just keeps going up, but we'll just start with that for now. Let me go ahead and just toggle this off. And how we selected or created this variable below, local selected world, I want to do the same thing for this dropdown as well. I'm going to create a local selected rebirth, and then I'm going to replace this variable with that. So when a value is selected, it updates this variable with that value. Now I'm going to go down here to auto rebirth. Once again, see how we're passing a value into this auto rebirth? Well, now what we want to do is pass the variable into it, just like we did before here for selected world. So I'm going to copy selected rebirth, paste it into here. So now when this is toggled on, whatever amount has been selected here is what will be purchased. Now, once again, I want to check that this has actually been selected. So I'm going to go down to the condition statement that we already have. So if you recall, if Boolean, then auto rebirth. So this is checking that the toggle is set to true. So if the toggle is on, that's what this check is doing, then start this function. But I'm also going to add another check to make sure, once again, that there's a value within this new field we created. So you can do that just by adding an and. So if Boolean and selected rebirth, then perform this function. So we want to make sure it's toggled on, and we want to make sure something has been selected. And if so, go ahead and start the function with the selected rebirth amount. All right, let's copy this code, go back here, destroy the current GUI, insert the new updated code, execute. All right, let's see if we have a drop down now for a rebirth. All right, we have rebirth amount. So let's just select 100. Now if we do this, we should see the remote being called in our remote spy here. Perfect. All right, and it worked. It sent 100 rebirths. Just go back here. And let's turn on our auto tap, get some more auto rebirth. Perfect. All right, now let's change 100 to 1000. Turn on our auto tap, auto rebirth. There we go. We're gonna pause Simple Spy so it runs faster. All right, so now we created drop downs for both the rebirth amount as well as the teleports. And that concludes this video of the tutorial series. If you like these videos, please go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button. Comment down below if there's anything you would like me to cover in the next video. Thank you and take care.